I was very willing to do things that incurred a cost to myself or even to my relationship or to my health or to my work. These little decisions that you make, they had this searing impact.
Isolation, feeling of helplessness, desperately trying to regain a sense of control.
I do think we live in a time where you watch one thing and then the next thing you know, that specific virus has been infecting people's character. You can catch good things and bad things, but a lot of people catch bad things.
Was it you who wrote about imagining visiting your child's grave?
Well, there's an exercise from Marcus Aurelius. The idea that you would meditate on the death of your own child seems insane. That exercise is a way of putting a very radical, deranged perspective on it, and then you realize, oh, actually what's insane is...
It's funny, I haven't used my iPad in such a long time because my kids took it over, essentially.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, do you want me to wipe it off? And I was like, you know what? Nah. Let the stuff stick all over it, because then when I'm using it, I'll be like, oh, I miss my family and I miss my kids. There's like Cheerio mark on the space bar. There's a key missing. And it's humbling, man, because you're like, this is where daddy creates his masterpieces. And they're like, look, I pried a key off with the fork. And you're like, oh, cool. Thanks. Was it you who told me that one of your kids picked up one of your books and was like, look, the Daily Butthole or something like that?
Yeah, that's in the afterword of this book.
Oh,
yeah,
it is?
that's what my son said.
That's right.
The other day, he goes, Dad, what do you think the worst book in the bookstore is? Beside yours. Okay, that was good. Yeah. I respect that.
Yeah, just shots fired. Man, that's how old was the kid who said that?
Like this was like 8 months ago. It was not like
because the thing is, you think about, like, was that actually a joke, or does he just really regard my work as the crappiest thing in the whole store?
I think they're good at they like bullying me. I think they're good. They're like testing and trying to see like how they can burn me for stuff. They're pretty. I go back and forth between both being hurt by it and finding it hilarious.
Yeah. It seems like you shouldn't find it hurtful because you are their like they don't mean it. Yeah. I think it's probably a mark of social intelligence that they are trying to rip you down to shreds.
Well, yeah, and the idea that he would like ask it in such a way that would like get me, like he had me interested in the question just to like stick the knife in, you know, like I respect that level. And then it was like, you know, the book's paid for this house, man. Let's chill out.
Hadn't thought that far ahead. Yeah.
You know,
I think it's quite funny. Like my son, he's at the point where he's like making a mess is funny, which that's not the humor I can share in, because I'm like, I've got to clean all this crap up. But he will often ask a question that's so innocent but so harsh, like just so like a brutal observation that's framed in a way. And it's all I can do to resist being like, go ask mommy that question. Because I'm like, okay, is this going to hurt her feelings? I don't want to do that. But I feel like she should share in this particular bit of misery.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah, I tend to get the brunt of it. But I think that's like a two boys, girl, like I think that's like the whatever, that's the dynamic in our house. I get the most of it.
My dad gets the most of it. So it's like he'll be like, Grandpa stinks. And he's like, you stink. So it immediately turns my dad into a 6-year-old child, which is not maybe not the best thing for
it's the best.
But it's like, you stink. And he's like, well, I'm not playing with you, Grandpa. And he's like, well, I'm not playing with you. And it's really, it's funny. But other times I'm like, can we not do this right now? It's really funny to watch your parents turn into kids while your kids are also being kids. And I'm like, I'm parenting both of you. And I have to cook my kid something that he'll eat, right? And then my dad's like, I don't want this. I want pizza. I'm like, can you maybe behave like an adult for a second? You're 80 years old, for God's sake. You've been on the show so many times.
How many?
That's a good pop quiz. I bet it's like 5 times.
I bet it's way more than 5.
You might be right. If you count my old show and this show, it's probably like, yeah, you might be twice that.
Well, I think you were one of the first podcasts that I ever did.
Yeah.
We've known each other at least 12 years.
I think that sounds right. Yeah. When was your first?
2012.
Okay. So that makes sense because you were on for that.
Yeah. July of 2012 was when my first book came out.
I remember one of the times it was quite funny. Afterwards, you go, wow, that was like a real interview. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you might want to consider videotaping these. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I'd never
Oh,
thought about that because I
interesting.
was doing them on Skype.
Yeah.
And he's like, you should do some sort of video. And I was like, oh, Skype video really stinks though. Is like, and you're like, yeah, but then you could see the person. But I thought that was quite a nice compliment. It was like a real interview. I was like, oh, what are you normally dealing with?
Do you remember one time you were interviewing me and someone like broke into my
Yeah,
office?
yeah. And you, to quote you, if I may, said, "Get the out of here." And it was like, I'm just asking if I can landscape but I'm like, you're like, you just went into like an open, I don't know, it was an open window or what? I mean,
I
the
didn't
guy
just
was,
scream it. No, that's not what happened is we were doing an interview and it was remote. This is in like the middle of the pandemic.
yeah,
And someone was we just set up in this space and someone was like knocking on the door and I ignored it because I was in the middle of something.
Yeah.
And my office, this was weird. I was doing it upstairs. I heard them knock a couple more times and I ignored it. And at some point you're supposed to go away when
yeah,
no one answers.
right.
And then I hear them like enter the building, which
Oh
was
my
not
God.
an open facility. I mean, it's like, it was not, it was closed. Plus everything was closed. It was the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And not even the middle, very early in the pandemic,
Yeah,
if I
it was
remember
early.
correctly. And then so I hear them like, I hear what I think is someone stomping around. And then I hear enough. I'm like, okay, yeah, they entered the building. I look down, I see a landscaping truck, which I did not have landscapers.
Yeah, you don't have a lawn.
Yeah,
That's the weirdest thing about this.
Yeah. There's no, and then so I'm like, I'm like, hey, can you hold on a second? It's still recording. So I
Yeah.
was like, hello. And then they're like, hey, I'm the landscaper. And I go, what?
That doesn't shit.
What?
It- I've thought about that so many times since that happened because it was so weird. Now I'm like, was that guy casing vacant property to steal stuff? Because you don't have a
think so.
lawn.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's like some weeds and stuff, maybe. But I
come
was
on.
like, I think that's what was happening. And that he thought I was not, no one was there. And then when I answered, he kind of made up this flimsy excuse. And then something about it, I was like, you know what? Like, get the like, so what? Because at some point, like, we're separated by we can't see each other, and I don't know who this person is or what they brought. Like, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to overreact here to make this go away. They did stomp away, but it was so. Plus, it was. We were like well into an interview, so I was, there was no one else here, so someone else usually would have run interference. But I don't know about you, but like when you get into something, it's like when you go to the movies and then you leave and it's like gotten dark out.
Yeah.
You're like, I was oblivious to the outside world.
Sure.
So I was in that space and then there's just like someone stomping around. It was very strange.
It's very strange. Yeah.
But I think about that all the time.
At first I thought like, gosh, this guy's really going to extra lengths. But who walks into a vacant building in Texas
Yeah.
that has clearly got stuff in it? Like that seems like a really good way
For
to
unsolicited landscaping
Right.
work on a commercial building. It was,
Yeah.
you're right. That's probably what was happening.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Of course I'm reminded of that consistently when something weird like that ever happens. I have to say, like, it's fun to be here at the Painted Porch doing this in this like hallowed studio where you destroyed all these books. I know you kind of revere the book. Was it weird? Just, I mean, none of those are ever going to be able to get read again. Right?
No, these are not. So these are books. So one, I emailed my publisher. I was like, okay, I'm building out a studio. So I was like, please send me a couple copies of all of your books.
Oh, interesting.
So they'll be in the shot. So like, especially behind you, there's a lot of portfolio books there. I think some are here, but and then there were books like I had more than one copy, or I didn't like the book, or somebody sent me the galley and then a copy, and then the publicist. So
I see.
And then some of them are foreign translations of my books, which is this weird thing.
That's cool.
Where you write a book and then they're like, and here's 15 Mandarin copies, and you're like,
what am I going to do with these?
Yeah, I can't throw it away. But I don't know 15 people that want to write. Like, I don't.
Right.
Not only do I not know 15 people who speak Mandarin, I don't know 15 people who would like a book from me in Mandarin. So,
oh yeah, it's a subset of a subset.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I have a bunch of those, and then the rest. There's a company called Book by the Foot, and they sell books for movie sets and art projects and whatever. So we calculated after we took all the ones we had, we were like, okay, we need 20 linear feet of books or whatever. And then they just mail them to you.
That's pretty cool. I wondered how you cut the edge piece. So for people that are not watching this, this is a studio where the whole wall is stacks of books glued to the wall and glued to each other, and it looks really good.
Did you go in the store?
I haven't yet.
I'll show you. We have the reason we did this is because in the bookstore there's a this is cool. But the bookstore has like a big indoor fireplace. It's a building from the 1800s, and so we did the whole fireplace in book. So it runs. It's like 22 feet tall.
I assume you're never going to use that because that sounds
It doesn't
really
work.
okay.
No,
Good,
no, it
because I was
doesn't
like,
work.
let's
It's
line
not
this
a
book.
Fahrenheit 451 situation.
Let's line this fireplace with
Yeah.
old paper.
No. And this is not the inside of the fireplace. It's the
Of course.
outside, but
Yeah. Even still.
yes.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was like, oh, we should do another podcast. And whenever I usually dictate text because it's faster, but whenever it's you or other author friends, I'm like, I got to freaking proofread this because I'm like,
Yeah.
you got like 15 bestsellers, 16 now, maybe.
I think this is my 16th book.
Yeah.
All right, hang on for a second. I've got something that'll help you nail down the key takeaways from books, even if you can't dedicate 10 hours a week to reading. It's called short form. Breaking down important concepts and turning them into podcast interviews is pretty much what I do all day, every single day, so you guys can enjoy the best insights. It takes a ton of time. Take Ryan Holiday's books, for example. They're at least 6 to 9 hours long each. I'm sure a lot of you have a stack of books you're just dying to read, but you can't fit it into your schedule. That's where short form comes in. It's like a cheat code for getting the key ideas from these books that you've been meaning to get to someday. But short form isn't just any summary service. It's like a summary on steroids. You get the major points of a book, but with a lot more depth. Plus, they have interactive exercises that'll help you really take in the ideas and put them to use. So you're not just forgetting everything a few days later. Now, one thing I love about short form is how they connect ideas between authors. So you could be reading a guide, and they'll show you how one author's thoughts link up or even contradict another author's thoughts or point. I find it useful for the podcast, but also just for getting smarter. Short form is not here to replace books. It's just a smarter, more efficient way to keep learning, in my opinion. For a free trial and 20% off an annual subscription, head over to shortform.com/Jordan. That's shortform.com/Jordan.
I got to make sure there's like an Oxford comma in the right place. Otherwise, it's like, I didn't know Jordan was a moron. He doesn't know the difference between there and there.
I would not notice if it was incorrect. I do appreciate that you dictate the text. You know what I hate? I hate
Voice memos.
voice memos.
They're inconsiderate.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then it always screws up my thing because I'll open it and be like, oh great, it's a voice
I
text.
gotta play this later.
Yeah, I'll play it later, and then I never play it later, and
Right.
then because I'm with people, I don't want to just play your text in front of.
It's like
someone.
watching a video at full volume. Like I gotta put in my AirPods to listen to this thing. No, thank you. Put it up to my ear at a table. No, the voice memo thing is there's probably a writing sort of corollary, or there's a similar example with writing, I'm sure. But if I have to write something, I have to clarify my thinking, right? And I go, are you going to be there tonight? Looking forward to seeing you. But if it's a voice memo, it's, hey, man, oh, what's up? Oh, so sorry, I'm just getting in my car. Dude, it is so hot today. Oh, man. And I'm going to get like a smoothie or whatever. I'm with the kids. So do you think, are you going to go to Jimmy's thing tonight? And if you do, like, let me know, because I might go too. And if you don't, well, whatever, I'm going anyway. So I guess, and you're just like, this could have been one sentence. What are you doing?
I actually was just working on it yesterday in the book that I'm doing now. I have a chapter on writing to think, that you write to think right. And there's like at Amazon, you can't just call a meeting. You to call a meeting, you have to submit like a 3-page memo.
Oh, wow. That's a good
that
idea.
everyone reads at the beginning of the meeting. And then the meeting is the discussion about the idea or the proposal or the whatever. And I was thinking about like why they do that. And it's so you can't just like wing it and half-heartedly think about it, or you actually have to think about what you think. And by definition, when you're writing, you have to think all the way through. Like to get to the period, you have to think all the way through. You can't just start and figure out like it's the act of thinking to completion that's so important. Yeah, for people who don't know, so this table we're sitting at, it was Joan Didion's table, and I have a line in the thing. She says, writing is a hostile act because you're trying to persuade someone or worse, force them to understand your thinking about something, right? And to do that, you have to comprehend first what you are thinking.
Yeah.
And so there's something about just winging it that is just never going to be as. So I think it's rude not to take the time to do it. And look, if you're disabled or dyslexic or something,
Fine,
totally different story.
Yeah.
But there is something about the like, well, I'll just throw a bunch of shit at you and then you process it and then you come back to me.
Even if you are, though, you could still dictate it. Unless you can't talk, right? But in which
You
case,
could
why are you
dictate it
sending
and
me a
then
voice
edit
memo?
it. Yes.
Yeah, dictate it. Don't edit it. I mean, whatever. If there's a wrong word in there and I can read between the lines, fine. It's the mumbling and the rambling where I'm like, we're not on a phone call. I'm not even spending time with you. Like if I'm on the phone with somebody and they're like, oh, I'm just getting in the car. Man, it's so hot in Texas. I'm like, oh, we're at least we're talking. Yeah. If you're just talking at me, it's the equivalent of a podcast where I'm like, hey, so what do you guys want to talk about? I don't know. Oh, well, you wrote a book, didn't you? That's cool. Like, no, you don't handle a podcast like that. So now I'm a victim of your 4-minute podcast that could have been one sentence.
Yeah,
that's what a voice memo is. Yeah, it's unbelievable. You're in this weird place where people analyze everything you do through a lens of stoicism, and it's a little bit hard to watch sometimes. Like what was it recently? You were cleaning up like a dog carcass and garbage that had just been thrown in a road near your house
yesterday.
And you filmed it because you were like, hey, I want to set I assume because you're like, I want to set an example of what it means to live a good life and encourage other people to do the same. And people are like, why are you filming your virtues, bro? That's not stoic. That's not stoic, bro. What do you think is happening there?
Well, I'm more perplexed as to how the thing keeps happening. That's probably why I recorded the video. So I'll give you an example. I was driving my son home yesterday. And I pull up where we live on this dirt road. All the houses are on this dirt road. And we have this shared mailbox, like a locked
so the
mailbox
postman
thing.
doesn't have to go.
So you can't, because they can't drive on the road. And so pull up and there's like 10 enormous black garbage bags of trash that someone had dumped since I had driven on the road this morning. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's disgusting. It's 100 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And like, part of me is like, I didn't do this.
Yeah.
This is 1.5 miles from my house. So like, it's not like I'm going to smell it, but I'm like, no one else is going to take care of it. This is not a public road. So, but I'm baffled. I called my wife and I was like, what kind of person drives their car to a place? Then I was trying to wrap my head around getting out of the car, undoing the back of your truck or your trailer, and then picking this up and throwing it on the ground. Like, first off, like how scary that would be. We could get caught at any moment.
Yeah.
But I was like, don't they know that there's a dumpster behind like every business?
Yeah.
And it's illegal to do it here. It's also illegal to do it there. But like, I got to figure the guy working behind the counter at the gas station cares a lot less.
Sure.
And then also it's less bad for it. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So anyways,
I agree. I'm sure you use the word person.
Yeah.
I would have used a different word. It's true.
So I had to pick up this trash. I threw it in the thing. It was disgusting. There were maggots everywhere. And then I had to I only have one trash can. So I had to stop at every neighbor's house, on the way home,
and they're like,
to give one bag, in the thing. I was like, so I had to touch all this. But
anyway, the police are gonna be like, we have footage of you dumping illegally.
Well, no, that's a couple years ago, someone had thrown a mattress, and so I'm in there loading this mattress in the back of my truck, and one of my neighbors pulls up and is like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Bro, I've lived here way longer than you. Also, it's the middle of the day. Where were you when this was being dumped?"
Yeah.
But anyway, so I can't wrap my head around that. And the more baffling is they tend to dump dead animals. They'll dump
that's kind of freaks
deer
me out
carcasses or what. It's a lot of dead dogs, and I can't figure out if it's a dog fighting ring or if it's do they not know you can bury things in your own yard? Or again, you could just throw it in a dumpster somewhere, I guess.
Like the deer thing is maybe hunting, but the dead dog carcasses, if you find one, you're like, oh man, that's someone's pet. But when you find 5 dead dog carcasses, something's going on, man.
I personally disposed of at least 10 dead dogs.
That sounds like illegal activity.
And that's the ones that I was like, this is fresh enough for me to do something about, not like I just have to
falling apart.
So anyways, I'm baffled by that. But I was filming the video because I was trying to talk about this thing, which is kind of what the new book is about. But when I first moved there, and I think this is how I went through life, I'd be like, well, I hope someone takes care of this. I just hope someone takes care of this. I would call the police and be like, hey, I remember one time I was running right after this, one of these had happened, and a police car was driving down my road, which never happens. This is a private road. And so I flagged down the officer and I go, hey man, I don't know if you saw, but there's and he's like, it's weird, huh? He's baffled by it too. Not like, hey, I'm going to take care of this for you. But like, he's like, I wish they wouldn't put them in the bags because then it makes it harder for him to decompose. He was just thinking about it like purely from a like, this is just how it goes. And it'd be better if it was more natural because it would go away faster.
Yeah. I mean,
So
okay.
like at first, you know, I grew up where I lived and how I thought like that this is what government is for. This is like what the police are for, or the sanitation department is for, animal control is for. And one of the things you learn in Texas, I'm not saying it's good, I hate it about Texas, but you're just like, no. Like nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was like, oh, if I don't like this, and I don't like it because when I have to drive by it or I have to run by it, I have to smell it, it's awful. And then also it's bad for the environment. I guess the dogs are fine, but the trash. I was like, I have to take care of this. Like I have to pick this up and put it in my truck, and it's gonna like I have to do it. And so I was just, like, when we think of justice, like it's when we think of something like that happening, we think justice is like, well, I'm going to call the police, they're going to investigate the crime, they're going to arrest the person's going to be punished. And that is a version of legal justice for the situation. But there's also just the fact that the thing is there and it has to be resolved. Like, there's two ways this goes. One is I drive by it every day and birds slowly tear the bags of trash apart and the trash spreads everywhere. And then eventually leaves fall and it gets covered up. Or there's a version where I get disgustingly dirty, picking this up and throwing it away and taking time out of my day. And I have to choose between which one of those I'm going to live with. And that's what the video is about. And then, yeah, some people manage to get upset by this, which is always strange. But
It is strange. It is strange. I noticed you're not in the comments as much on social media as in years past. Is that, you're right, like the plague that infects your character, is it related to that?
I think so. I mean, it's weird. You're always in the comments on my thing. So I mostly see the feel to you.
Yeah, I'm sort of like ashamed of that, but yeah.
No, I think it's hilarious. But no, I realized it was making me, it wasn't bringing out a good part of me. Like, and then I was arguing with people that I was never going to convince. And it was also just making me less motivated to do good stuff in the world and to do good work, because these people, I was bumping up against the existence of these people who I'd prefer not to think about.
I agree. No,
Do you know
I'm
what I
with
mean?
you. Yeah, I do. I see a lot of hate now with the Israel stuff. You just see people post like really gross stuff about one ethnic group or another. And I used to be like, explain this to me. Like, let me, and then you realize very quickly, like, this is not, it's either not a real person at all.
That's a huge part of it. I think people are less, we're not good at assuming that the thing is totally, like, I see people post these like, can't believe someone said this. And it's like, I can't believe it either, because a person did not say that.
Yeah.
That was a bot, or it's artificial intelligence, or it's a troll doing something, saying the most extreme thing to get you to do this. I think that's really hard. And then also the people who are doing it, who are real, are in a way not real.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, there's something broken in that person, and it's not a level playing field. You're not going to convince them, or what their whole point is to provoke and distract and make you irrationally, or not provoke, distract, or make you despair. And so, yeah, I've tried to do a lot less of it. Sometimes I see them, so it's still getting me, but I'm at least not doubling down once I see it.
It's funny you mentioned that even the alive living person is not a real person. I've read this article years ago and I have no idea where it is. Maybe my producer can find it, but it was about how this woman who's a journalist, she was looking at this really bad troll that was horrible online. And it turned out to be like her husband. And she had tracked it, and she's like, but wait, my husband's not an angry guy who's, what is it, nihilistic or whatever, and cynical. So what's going on? And it turned out that he just found it kind of cathartic to be this horrendously terrible person that posted kind of some evil stuff and harassed people, not harassed to the point where he was going out of his way, but he would just be like, oh, I'm going to push that button. He just kind of got like a juvenile kick out of it, and it got worse and worse. And she's like, you need to stop doing this. And he was just like,
we need to get a divorce.
Right.
No,
Yeah,
but he's not being real. Like, he's acting. He is playing a role, or a character that it solves some deep psychosis in the person, of course. But like, yeah, you go, oh, okay, this isn't. So what I mostly just do now is if I don't even have it on my phone, but I have the person who does our social media stuff. Like, just you can just shadow ban people, and so it's like I'm just going like, hey, they were letting me know they would like to be shadow banned.
Mhm.
That's how I think about it.
Scream into the void.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then so they continue to post, but they just have no idea that they're not affecting anyone.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I see, like it's just interesting to think that the person who posted something horrible about like Jews or Palestinians or African Americans is like the same guy or gal that is at the grocery store that's like, "Oh, I think you dropped your wallet, sir." And you're like, "Oh, thank you so much. That would have ruined my day." And they're like, "Yeah, no problem." And you're like, "That's the guy who secretly posted this thing and is like at my kids' soccer games and there's Jewish kids on the team and he doesn't have any real issue with them at all. It's just an online thing that gets him like feeling powerful." It's kind of sick, actually.
Well, I had a weird experience. I can't talk too specifically about it because I think it'll feed the thing. But there was someone where someone posted something very negative about me online, and but in a way that in a way or at a place that I've seen it happen before. And so before I would see it, and I was like, oh, like these are the, this is the world not liking me. Like
Yeah.
these are like, hey, these are people telling me I suck and whatever. And then I saw it happen in the same place, and I realized I knew the person that did it. And they didn't know that and I was like, oh, and I knew why they did it because we'd had an interaction. And so I was like, oh, okay. So when I'm seeing so it was very clear like this person was going through some stuff and decided to like blow off some steam by encouraging people to shit on me. Or yeah. And realizing like, oh, that's what the other people are doing. I just don't know them or the story. And so it was like this weird, I was like, oh yeah, this is like this whole thing that only very loosely has anything to do with me. And I have to just not let it in because it's toxic and dysfunctional and weird. But it was like this very weird experience where like you think of trolls and like criticism and whatever that happens on the internet as being this sort of like faceless, like big thing in a way, like it's all these people, and then realizing like, no, it's a very specific person acting for a very specific reason. It was strange, but it's helped me act in a weird way.
I will say to people who are maybe tempted to engage in this kind of thing or respond to it in a way that's also extreme, because that's how it escalates, right? Someone responds to it and they're like, "Oh, well, now I have it out for you." I use my real name online. I know you do too. It's actually, it makes things a lot easier because you go, "Oh, I'm gonna let this person have it." And then you're like, but then everybody who sees that is gonna be like, Jordan Harbinger said this kind of awful thing to a person. And that person, their comment kind of deserved it, but shouldn't you be above that? Like, aren't you a guy who's above this kind of crap? And you go, yes, but if you're posting under your like pseudonym or whatever, then people will go, you get away with it.
Yes.
So I sort of created accountability for myself in that respect.
Yeah, no, I realized I was not, I was getting sucked into stuff. And even if I was winning the exchanges, I was losing.
Yeah. 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 The plague that infects your character.
Yeah, yeah, which is a thing. So Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations, he says basically there's two kinds of plagues. And he's writing in the middle of a plague, which I did not realize. It just sort of, I didn't understand until I went through a plague, and as we all did. And he's saying, look, there's the part of the plague that kills your life, that can kill you, which he may have ultimately succumbed to. And he says there's this other part that infects your character. And so all the things that we saw during COVID must have happened during the Antonine Plague also, the radicalization, the conspiracy theories, the callousness, the cruelty, just the catharsis of, attacking people and persecuting people. I think that's what he's talking about. And so you like what I came to understand when I I would interact with some of these people when I do something very innocuous or say something very sort of right down the middle of just like ordinary human behavior when millions of people are dying of something. And people would freak out and I'd be like, "Oh, you're infected. Like you caught something." And I think you and I both saw people we know
Yeah.
become very different people as a result of what they went through. And so that all ironically tied into the shadow banning thing because I would ban these people for saying horrible stuff or spreading misinformation or whatever. And then I would see them comment later on other things, like on people I know or on my accounts. And when you shadow ban someone or you ban someone on Instagram, when you're a verified account or whatever, it turns their thing gray and it says like restricted comment.
Oh, interesting.
And so it was this, I was like, oh, these are like infected people. Like I'm
Yeah.
seeing them. It's like they're labeled and I'm seeing that they're like an infected person. And I'm watching them go around and try to infect people with their awfulness or stupidity or deeply held but nonsensical belief. And and then
That is interesting you labeled them.
it'll be weird, like couple years. Some of this has been going on for a long time. I'll notice them post something for, I don't know why, but I'll click it and I'll be like, love your stuff. You're doing great, And then I realize, oh, like they were infected in this moment and maybe they're better now.
Yeah, hopefully.
But it's a weird thing. And I do think we live in a time where it's very easy to just you watch one thing or you talk to one thing and then you just watch this process happen to someone, like a set of symptoms in an illness. And then the next thing you know, they're like,
broken brain kind of situation. It's interesting because part of it is social media bringing people down rabbit holes, and part of it is people getting way into social media during the pandemic because they couldn't leave their house. They had nothing better to do. So that was like a part of a vicious cycle. And I think the other stuff is stuff that's been around for thousands of years when plagues hit, which is isolation, feeling of helplessness, desperately trying to regain a sense of control. And all of this ends up being, it can manifest itself in pretty horrible ways.
Yeah, I was going to write this thing. I didn't end up writing it, but like, I was going to say like the oldest virus is anti-Semitism, and you can watch people get like infected with it. Like they watch a documentary or a book, or they have an interaction, or they go to a certain university, and it's a thing that has been infecting humans and societies. There are other of these similar kind of mind viruses, but like that's just a thing that that specific virus has been infecting people's character for literally thousands of years. And it happens in different ways, and the different symptoms of it can manifest themselves differently in different societies. But it is weird that it's just this thing that's always been there.
It is. And then people will use that to justify the anti-Semitism. Like, oh, yeah, well, y'all have been kicked out of 110 countries or 109 or whatever it is. I can't remember. We've lost track of how many countries we've been kicked out. And they'll go, yeah, it's been around for thousands. So it must have some shred of truth to it. And it's like, well, actually, we're still around. That's why this is still around, because Jews are still around. If we weren't around anymore, like no one's complaining about ethnic groups that they exterminated in 100th century BC or whatever. No one's like, those Babylonians, right?
No. Humans have been doing awful things to each other for a very long time. But yeah, this sort of othering and deciding like someone is going to be the scapegoat for a society that's always been there. But anyways, just this idea that there's different kinds of viruses, to me, has been a helpful way of understanding the world, and that you can get you can catch good things and bad things, but a lot of people catch bad things.
I would love to talk about misinformation. We talked about it a little bit on your show. I wonder, let me start from a previous point here. Do you feel like having kids has caused you to do more things in your life the right way? Because maybe before having kids, you were like, I can get away with this. And now it's like, well.
I think so. I mean, you are trying to model good behavior and you're trying to show things. And I do feel like you have this obligation when you have kids to, I think, raise them well. And so I think it's made me think about things. I don't know. It is funny. People will be like, I have 2 daughters, and that's what made me like care about this for the first time. Right. That's a little weird,
Yeah.
Where you're like, I don't know if you need to have daughters
to know that sexual assault is bad or something.
Yeah.
I got those too. I see those people too.
But I don't know. I think mostly what parenting did was it opened me up. Like, it's very easy to be selfish and to just think about you because you've got your own pain and your own problems and your own ambitions, and to just sort of be closed off. And I think what parenting should do is, I mean, it forces you on a daily basis to spend a lot of time thinking about what these other people are thinking and what they're going through and why they're acting this way. Like, I think one of the things that hit me earlier was like, I'd be like, why are our kids acting this way?
Yeah.
And my wife would be like, it's because we skipped nap or whatever. Or it's because we didn't take lunch seriously and they didn't really eat anything. And, and realizing there's this very specific cause and effectness of behavior in children, but also in people. And when you're forced to see it over and over and over again with your kids, what I tried to take from that deliberately was like, okay, everyone is acting for a reason. And I myself act for a reason, and I always let myself off the hook for that reason, right? I didn't mean it. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I'm whatever. But that I think it did cultivate some extra empathy in me, because it forced me to since like, it's not that your kids are never in the wrong, but like, they're kids, right? And so you have to think about why they're acting this way. You can't just be like, it's because they're an asshole. It's because they suck.
Yeah.
It's because those people are like that,
Yeah.
right? All the things we do to not empathize or care about other people, because it would be a burden. And so kids force you to do that. And I tried very deliberately, as that process happened, to take out sort of a meta lesson from it that I think made me better.
I like that. I think for me, you kind of encouraged me to think about this, I think, in some ways, which is that for example, every time you go somewhere, I know you're traveling today, so I'm twisting the knife, but like, whenever you have to choose to go somewhere, it's like, this has to be important. Like, I came to Austin because it's like, I'm going to be on your show. I'm going to interview you. I want to see the bookstore. Haven't seen you and your wife in years, or whatever it's been. And I would love to visit. And then it's like, and then I'm going to New York to do 8 billion things, not to hang out for 4 days and like maybe do some no, it's like back to back to back to back. It's not going to be all fun and games.
Yes.
It's going to be quite stressful. And then my wife's like, do you want to take it easy and come back on Friday, or do you want to? I'm like, nope, come back on Thursday night and get back late and then go straight to bed after a really long ass day. And the next day, I'm going to be on a plane to San Diego to go to Legoland. And I can't be like, oh, daddy doesn't want to build Legos. I'm tired. It's like, no, I'm going to caffeinate and get her done. And it's just, you have to have a reason to do all of these things that take you away from your family. Whereas before I had kids, I was like, I'll go somewhere. Why don't we stay at this place for like a month? Let's throw an extra week and just stay in Hawaii and fart around. It's like, you really have to prioritize.
You don't have to, though.
I guess you could screw up your kids and not do that.
And I would say a lot of people don't, right? Like,
it's true.
Like, I don't think everyone does think that way. I don't know if my parents always thought that way. I don't know if generations of parents have always thought that way. The idea that you owe the first/best of your time or self to these people, I think that's a somewhat recent and wonderful cultural
You might be
consensus, you know? But once you concede to it, then yeah, it does challenge you, and it forces you to change, because I realized it's not that I was not selfish. I think I was selfish, but I was very willing to do things that incurred a cost to myself, or even to my relationship, or to my health, or to my work, because people asked, because they were lucrative, because it would be good for my career. I would just say yes. And I think fundamentally, a lot of it was just insecurity. Like, I knew that at some point people would stop asking.
Right. Yeah.
And so I had to say yes now. I just didn't have the confidence to be like, it'll come around.
Yeah.
And so seeing the cost of that embodied in a very sweet 3-year-old on the verge of tears, or whatever it is, forces you to see it from see the cost of the yesness from a different perspective. That's been very powerful and life-changing for me.
It was likewise. And I think you're right. There's most of these examples I think you've given me. Gandhi was like kids were last in line.
Yeah.
Angela Merkel, her dad was, I think, a pastor or a priest, or
like
not
a pastor for disabled children.
Right.
But his own children were always kind of last in
line. And then was it the Queen of England who like was gone for months at a time, and then she sees her kids and they run up to give her a hug, and she's like, no, not right now. And then she like greets some dignitary.
Yeah, she's been gone for months. The royal yacht comes in, her kids rush up to her, and there's like a protocol which the Queen is supposed to like greet, I don't know, the Prime Minister. There's some protocol she was supposed to observe, and like, your kids are not part of that protocol.
Yeah.
And Prince Charles, like now the King of England, runs up to his mom. He's like 5 or 6. She says, "Not you, dear. I have to do this first."
Right.
And I think it's even like the title of one of the chapters in his memoir. So like these little decisions that you make, they have this searing impact on a person. I was actually just thinking about that on the way here, like the way in which like we say our kids come first, and then like, I don't know, I was on the phone yesterday and like my kids are making crazy noise, but I'm on this phone. I'm like, you shut up,
Yeah.
not you, who by the way work for me, put up with this background
Or
noise.
trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying like I was saying to my kids, these people are more important than you. Or like I was going somewhere and like I don't like to be late, but am I rushing drop off with my kids so this other person doesn't have to wait 1 minute, you know? And like obviously it's not good to make anyone wait. We should have left a little earlier. But the point is like I'm saying no. Like what you need is less important than this trivial inconvenience to this other person. The ease with which we do that. So I feel like it's forced me to just think about things differently, and I think become more just generally empathetic. But the sad thing is, yes, most of the great men and women from history were not good parents.
Yeah. It sucks to read that stuff because you think, is this a necessary trade? But it's not. I don't think it is.
I mean, look, do you think Zelensky has been a great father the last couple of years?
Well, yeah,
I'm sure there's
probably different.
I'm sure there's a cost to it,
Sure.
right? But like, I don't think I think it's a thing I think a lot of times it's rationalized in a sort of disturbing way. We say we're doing it for them and it's not. Like
He might have a decent excuse.
no, when you're saying,
yeah.
is this necessary? I'm saying
Yeah.
like, Winston Churchill is saving humanity from the Nazis.
Mhm.
Was he as hands-on with his children and grandchildren in that period? Probably not, right? And like, there are moments I guess I was trying to let Zelensky off the hook. He seems like actually a great human being. And speaking of Zelensky and parenting, there's a thing in his first inaugural address, the famous, like we do this in the U.S. There's a picture of the president at the airport or whatever, and Ukraine's a patriotic country. He was like, don't hang up pictures of me in your house. He's like, hang up pictures of your kids in your house and try to honor them. And I loved that. I thought that was cool. He seems like a lovely person. I'm saying, look, sometimes you're going to be faced in situations where you have to be gone or away or, that's not what I'm saying. But I do think what tends to happen is we say we're doing these things for our kids, but we're doing them for ourselves. And if we were actually doing it for our kids, we would not be doing it.
It's tough when you face yourself with that reality a lot. I, for example, and I've told you this 1,000 times, but whatever, it's a podcast, so you have to put up with that. I haven't written a book, and one of the reasons is I want to write a book when I really have something to say, not when my agent wants like a house in Nantucket or whatever, for a commission. And one of the other reasons is my kids are 2 and 4, or almost 5, and your agent will always tell you, we're going to help you with the ghostwriter. It's going to be a lighter lift. I'm like, what about the 5 year? First of all, no, I don't want to have somebody like do this whole thing for me and then it's crap, or mediocre. And then I have to promote it for 5 years. I could say to my wife, look, I'm going to look how much money they're offering me.
Sure.
Isn't this going to be great? We can send them to any school we want, any college we want. We can go on vacation. We can take them to Disneyland every weekend with all this money. But the truth is, I'm not going to be done at work with work at 5 p.m. anymore.
Sure.
I'm going to be done at 8:30 or whatever, because I'm doing it maybe 4 days a week. Maybe on Friday I'll leave a little early. What is really going to matter more? And if you really think about it, your kids are not going to care if when you're dead they get a little bit more money. Yeah, book royalties are like more money in the
Sure.
will and the trust and estate. They're going to be like, I just remember playing with my dad like every day after school. Or do they remember you not being available at all after school? But cool, I got a boat because my dad passed away. Like what you really have to ask yourselves these questions, and you find out that the answer is no, you wanted to write that book so you could get that money and then you could do a book tour and everybody thinks you're brilliant and special and fun and you're talking and people are admiring you. And maybe you hit the list so you get that cool thing, you get a plaque, that stuff is meaningful, but is it better than spending time with your kids? The answer is almost always no, but there's so much shine on that stuff, man.
Yeah, I think about that. But then I catch myself because, you you can say you're not doing, like, conversely, you say you're doing stuff for your kids, and then you're not. You can also tell yourself you're not doing things for your kids, so you can spend more time with them or whatever. And then you go, but how am I spending my time? Right? You know what I mean? Like how am I spending my time? First off, when I'm at home or around them, am I actually home, or am I preoccupied or busy or thinking about the work that I do have? And then also, am I just filling that stuff up? So I'll go like, okay, all right, do I want to take this flight or this flight? One gets me home an hour earlier, but it's crazy. And then I go, okay, but how often do I waste an hour at home when I
Yeah.
have it?
No kidding.
Right? Because I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go run this errand, or I'm gonna do. So I think it should keep you honest in both ways, right? Like not just, hey, I don't do stuff, but also where am I when I'm not doing stuff? Just doing it to pat myself on the back. But I'm actually not being, parent of the year with the time that I have, right? Or it's like, hey, what do you want to be person who's gone from time to time, or, have this temporary thing where you're working a lot? Um, or do you want to be the person who's like bitter and frustrated or not present because, you could be doing something, or you should be, you know what I mean? Like to me,
I suppose I get that. I get that. I've kind of I've chosen my kids over my career in many ways. And it is kind of tough because you go, oh, I bet I could build some. Well, no, it's going to take a lot of extra time. But then you just really have to be honest with yourself, and ideally before you have kids, ask yourself what you really want. Because we've all seen those kids whose parents actually just wanted to be the best plastic surgeon in Michigan instead of being a dad. And I saw what happened to those kids, and it wasn't good.
I try to make decisions. I try to go like, is this the thing that looking back, I go, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's why mom and dad live in different houses.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's been moments where like I've had like cool job opportunities or cool projects, or, and I had to go, look, that seems cool, but I can see the wreckage that comes along with it. And I've chosen that too. And I think it's good, in that I don't think men were ever expected to make those kind of choices, and certainly wouldn't like proudly say that they had done that. So I think
You
that's
ever
good.
hear older guys be like, "I've never changed a diaper in my life," and I'm thinking like, you don't know what you're missing, pal. Like,
Yeah.
actually, it's quite funny and fun to be that intimately involved with the caring of your kids. But you're right. Maybe a generation ago was kind of considered like, oh, what are you, some kind of loser? You don't have anything better to do.
Yes, exactly. You could have been a better plastic surgeon in Michigan, but like there's a line in writing, and I forget who said it, but something like every kid you have is a book uh, you won't write. And there's probably something to that. But like there's like
I meant
to
negative two
to,
books.
to the answer to that is to shrug.
Yeah.
Because they're not that, like, you're not changing the world with any of this shit. It's not that important. Um, and there's an ego in thinking like, well, I chose not to have kids because my work's so important. Look, if you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. I'm not saying it's like
I agree with
morally
you there.
good or bad to do it.
Right.
I just the narcissism of like no, these are my children.
Right.
It's like, all right,
It's
bro,
cringy.
bro,
Yeah.
you make makeup tutorials or whatever.
Right. Yeah. There, it's true. I do look, and I'm always, if people are on the fence about not having kids, I always say don't, because
I
it's,
say this when people are on the fence about writing a book.
yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, please don't.
And it's not just, yeah, please don't, for the rest of us and also for the kids. But
Yes.
I guess the book itself doesn't have feelings, but it doesn't need to be out there. Save the
Yes.
trees. But there are people that have work and you go, they're like, I couldn't do this if I had children, so I decided not to. And you're like, but you do a radio show. So like, I mean, it's a great show, but really like when you're gone, maybe people will replay this occasionally, but they're just going to be like old folks when they're gone. No one's going to go back 100 years and listen to your old interviews. Really. I mean, it's very unlikely.
No,
I think
I was interviewing some television host, and he was like, I don't see my kids as much as I'd like, but like I'm doing these shows for them. And I was like, that's not why you're on TV 3 times a day, bro. Like that has nothing to do with them.
No.
You're on TV 3 times a day because they pay you millions of dollars, one. And two, you like talking. That's what your superpower is. Don't make it about them. You know what I mean? Don't you got to be intellectually honest about why you're doing the thing. Because there's something uniquely egotistical about doing a selfish thing and then making it a statement of your selflessness and sacrifice.
Sure. Like, I think there's a good chance that in 100 years, somebody will read a book about Stoicism that you've written. That's pretty cool. I was telling my producer, like, when my kids are grown and they're listening to this, and he goes, funny of you, bold of you to think that your son Jaden is going to be listening to more than one of these ever. He's going to listen to a couple and be like, that's kind of fun. Never again. Maybe when he's like 75 and retired, he'll be like, oh my God, my dad has all that audio. Maybe I'll listen to that when I'm cutting the lawn or whatever, the equivalent is then. Maybe. But otherwise, no. So the idea that you're trading time with them or trading some experience or thing that you could build with them to create that is laughably, it's totally ridiculous.
So why not just shut down your show and be a stay-at-home dad?
It would be great if I could earn a living. And I love what I do. That has value. But
no,
yeah,
but I mean, I'm sure
I
you
could retire.
You could retire at it wouldn't be easy necessarily, but you could. But
yeah.
So I don't know. There's.
I'd still like to do something other than, well, here, I thought about that. I was like, what if I took a hiatus? It's tough with creating things like a podcast because you lose your audience, like you never get it back. But I'm taking way more time. Like, I'm taking 2 months off starting next week, actually, or a week after next. Sorry. That's with Legoland is the beginning of the end of my work until the fall. But honestly, if my kids magically were going to stay 5 and 2 forever, I would just retire because I would take care of them. The problem is when I retire and then they're like 12 and they're like, why are you home? What are you doing?
I know. I've told this story before, and my relationship with changes over time because I can relate to it more. But my mom worked; she was a school principal. She worked my whole life, and but about like 12 or 13, she came home one day. She's so excited, and she was like, I've switched to part-time so I can be home when you get home from school and we can spend more time together. And I was like, get out of here! I was like, what?
Terrible.
I was like, what? Like, you didn't do this shit for me. I'm 13.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hang out.
That's funny. Brutal.
So I mean, I didn't say any of this, but the point is, like, you're like, there is a point where they don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah.
And the earlier you make the decisions.
There's that whole 18 summers thing. And I'm like, whoever said that, did they really have kids? Because when they're 13, the last 5 summers, they do not want any part.
Okay, so I think about that quote a lot, right? So people go, there's only 18 summers with your kids. And one of the things that's changed for me, like, I think it's important that you, another Joan Didion thing, she said, I don't trust anyone that never moved away from home, like that stays in your hometown. She was like, you got to get out.
That's
like,
funny.
You meet different kinds of people, different cultures. What I think, people with different economic classes. I think one of the things that's changed me as a parent, like, I remember growing up and like, you're supposed to move out when you're 18. And the kids who didn't move out when they were 18 were weirdos or losers. And there was like something wrong about those families. One of the things that's changed, and maybe it's a generational thing, I meet all these other people who are a little older than me or have older kids than I do. And they're teenagers, they spend tons of time together. Their kids are in college, they spend tons of time together. And what I realized is, like, yeah, you only get 18 summers with your kids. But also, if you have a good relationship with your kids and they don't hate spending time with you, you might have lots of summers with your kids. You should never take any of them for granted because you never know what's going to happen to anyone and life is unpredictable. But also, the idea shouldn't be, this is when we're together and then you move out and then we go do our life, which is kind of what my parents did. Like, my parents moved to Hawaii when my sister and I graduated from high school and college. They were just like,
good for them, though.
So it's our time now. Nice. And, which is good, but there's a loneliness to that, I think, also. Like, the ideal scenario is that you have a great relationship and you enjoy spending time together and you love and support and enjoy that company. Like, the founder of Kinko's was on a podcast once. I was listening to him and he said, you know what rich is? Rich is your kids come home for the holidays.
And $1.8 billion, but whatever.
But he was saying how many people have $1.8 billion. I mean, not a lot, but enough of them that we have a pretty large sample size that most of them do not have great family lives. And his point was, you can have this stuff, but what you're really going to want is this thing. And so I just try to think about like, what are the decisions? What are the practices? What's the way you work on this? So it's not like it was for me. And I think a lot of kids where you're like, I cannot wait to get the out of here and away from these people.
Psycho
Yeah.
parents. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot about investing in the relationship with my kids. And, I'm reading, like, what's the book you recommend constantly? Good Inside.
Yeah.
That's like the
Oh, she's the
current play
best.
on
Dr.
my
Becky?
phone. I'm like, I find myself just starting over because I'm like, I just need to absorb this even more
Have you had her on
again.
yet?
Not yet. It's only a matter of time.
Well, I'm like the biggest Dr. Becky evangelist.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that
Yeah.
warm intro at some point
Yeah.
because everything she says is like either confirming a hunch where we're like, oh, good, we're doing the right thing,
Sure.
or I'm like, ooh, I like the way of looking at it. So we'll link to that book in the show notes for this episode. But I found that, and I think I'm digressing from a point she made, but I find almost like less motivation in building my business, same work ethic, less drive to expand things at the cost of having a relationship with the kids. And it seems like I used to do all my shows in person, right?
Mhm.
And it was great. But now I would never make the choice to fly out to New York for just one show
Yes.
or something like it.
Yeah.
It has to be this like fully packed time. Even a world-class scientist, it's like I'm spending 3 days essentially away from my kids. Like it's a really
I think
different
about it in terms
calculation.
of bedtimes. And like I was just talking to my wife last night. So I've got this book coming out. It comes out on Tuesday. And so I have to go to New York for the launch or whatever. And so hard, you work so hard at the beginning of your career. You're like, I want to go on book tour. I want to do all this press. Because I think you're rooted in this kind of insecurity. First off, there's a financial interest to it, but you're just like, if I get that, then I'll be special, I'll be loved, I'll be validated, whatever. And then you get there, and then you realize the cost of it, and then you're like, how can I get out of this? Like, I was like, how can this be as short as possible? Do I have to do that? Is that worth doing? Is there a return on investment for doing that? And so it feels a little ungrateful and certainly privileged, but there is this other part of me that's like, oh no, I just wasn't aware of the cost of it before, and now I have this other thing that I love more than that, and so now I'm torn.
I think it was Dan Ariely on my show who said something like, you know how to get out of saying yes to things that you regret later? He's like, instead of, hey, in 6 months, you're going to do this. We're going to go to Austin, New York. Then you're going to go to Mexico. And then you got to go to Europe and do your European, whatever tour. You have to imagine that it's next Tuesday. Would you go? Can you go to New York for a week? Oh, that sounds awesome. It's next Tuesday. No, actually, I don't feel like it. And I've got some stuff I want to do. You're going to have stuff you want to do in 18 months during that trip that you're planning to go to New York for a week. Do you want to go? The answer is always
no. It's
always
easy
no.
to not think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like filling a calendar that's empty. Okay. That calendar is eventually going to be full. Now you got this big block thing that you kind of didn't really want to do. You said yes because it's like the problem for future Ryan, and you don't envy that guy.
Yeah.
The other thing I think it makes it easier is you imagine your kids dying. I mean, in vividly, not like graphically, I guess you should say, but was it you who wrote about imagining visiting your child's grave?
Well, there's an exercise from Marcus Aurelius, which he takes from Epictetus. He says, like, as you tuck your child in at night, you should say to yourself, they will not make it through the morning. So the idea of memento mori is morbid enough for people. The idea of meditating on your own death. The idea that you would meditate on the death of your own child seems insane. Now, in Marcus's case, he buries half of his children. He buries, I think, 6 children. So the ancient world was a horrendous place.
And this is the guy with the best medical care money could buy, I guess, right?
Sure. But I don't think what he's doing is trying to detach from the person. It's the opposite. He's the way I have taken it, the way it's informed how I parent, is my son's like, can I have another glass of water? What, I need this. So, really, you're suddenly hungry 46 minutes into bedtime? No, you're extending this thing, right? And I go, all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What do I care?
Yeah.
I'm going to go not watch as much Netflix now, or like the email's going to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Like, what am I rushing through this for? First off, there's also these moments you have with your kids where, one night they're like, all right, night. and then it hits you like the things that we used to have to do as part of the routine that slowly fall away. Those are gone forever. And you're going to miss them when they happen. And yet while you have them, you're like, when the f- will this be over? And
Right.
so to
Yeah,
me,
oh,
that
man.
exercise is a way of putting a very radical and almost deranged perspective on it. And then you realize, oh, actually what's insane is this thing that I'm rushing through. You only get so many of these, and here you are taking it for granted. And someday you'll miss it. And so I'm not perfect at it by any means, because sometimes it's like,
No,
go
sometimes
the
I'm
fuck to
tired and I
sleep,
want to go to
bro.
sleep. Yeah.
But
That's right.
it's like, no, we're not going to get in the pool now. Like, what? It doesn't matter that we normally go in the pool before bed. Like, you had a choice, you decided not to do it, and now you're already in your pajamas and the sound machine is on and you've been quietly laying there for 15 minutes. We're not going backwards into swimming time. What are you, insane? But like, do I want to be, how am I going to react to this? How am I going to talk about? Because why would I make this wonderful thing a negative exchange? And so that it does catch me that way. And so like the Stoics were talking about it from the perspective that it was much harder for them to take it for granted because death was ever present. Well, for us, thank God, infant mortality is incomprehensibly low compared to what it was then. So it's even easier for us to go, there's always going to be another bedtime. It's always going to be tomorrow. And that's not true. By definition, childhood ends.
Yeah, man, it is kind of depressing when you think about a lot of it. By the way, you have a pool here. That's a good call. It's like
Oh, you
97
have to.
degrees today.
Yes.
Yeah, it must be
It's
so nice to swim
but like this is climate change. People I know are getting pool chillers. Like you
Oh,
have to
to
have something
cool
to
your
cool your pool because it gets so hot.
because it's just a warm. It's too hot of a pool. It's like
Yeah.
a hot tub.
Yeah,
Oh
basically.
gosh, that is even when it's in the ground.
I mean, yeah.
That's
Look,
a
if you
little
have a pool in
depressing.
Dubai, how
Oh,
hot do
that's
you think it
true.
gets? So that's like but that's climate change for you. It's just because it's so hot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does sound nice to jump in a nice cool pool. I actually wish I had kids earlier. I never.
Yes, I do too.
It's funny. I never used the freedom I had back then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say never, but
Yeah.
I also paid for it in loneliness in some ways, right?
Sure.
In 2020 hindsight, I was ready a lot early. Well, you're never like ready to have kids. You're as ready as you're going to get.
Yeah.
And you think you're going to be readier later, and you just aren't. You're just older.
The other interesting thing, like there was some wisdom in the way that they had kids earlier because like your time was worth less. Like,
Yeah,
like
that's
my
true.
time in my 20s was worth less than my time in my 30s. Now, is my time in my 30s valuable because of what I did in the 20s? Sure. But the point is like the way we do it now, you're like having kids in the busiest part, like the teenage part, like when you're at like the peak of your powers or your peak of your earning potential. So there's a weird like what I would have been saying no to in my 20s because I had kids was like stupid social things. And now I'm like, that was like, we took a family vacation last summer, and I was like, we were gone for a month. We went somewhere for a month because it was so hot here. We're like, we're gonna go somewhere for a month. And I was like, and this is like this is the only time the first time I'd done this where I was like, and I will not be accepting, no matter how lucrative anything. It was like, you want to fly here for 12 hours to do a talk and come back? I was like, no. And so my agent was like, I know you said this, but like, it's the most you've ever been offered for a thing. I have to show it to you, And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And so I'm like, well, this was an expensive vacation. This was
Yeah.
like a house vacation. Do you know,
Gosh, good
this
for
is-
you saying no.
But the point is, and nobody was throwing that kind of money at me when I was 27,
No.
And so like, it would have been nice to have a 5-year-old then,
Yeah.
I gotta get, like, I know, Casey Neistat, like
Yeah.
Casey had a kid in high school. So like, obviously, which is not what you should do. But the point is like, his kid was in college when he was like hitting the peak of his career. Like
Sure.
exactly when your kid's like doing their own thing, there's some logic. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it's funny.
No, you're right. It depends on the support structure you have. It's a shame. I'm not trying to shame anybody who doesn't want kids. I think it's a fair choice. I wish it wasn't all the smart, good people who are like, you know what? No, choosing my career, or or they wait too long and they can't.
Yeah.
I would have gotten married earlier too. I think I just waited
I think so
on
too.
everything. Every time, because it was like, well, I don't want to get married right away. And then it was like, well, I just got married. I got to enjoy being married for a while. And then suddenly you're just like, oh crap, if I don't have kids now, I'm going to be like 60 moving my kids into college, which is actually possibly going to be true for me. And depending on when they go to, well, maybe moving them out of college, I'll be 60 and it'll be like, holy crap, I can't lift this by myself. I got a bad back. Chasing money and status, it makes sense when you're single, but if you're doing it when you're married and you have a family already, I think you're kind of doing it backwards.
Interesting. What do you mean?
I think we get stuck in that mode, and it's hard to escape. It's like it's like a black hole. You
Yeah.
start to feel good about it. Like you said, you rationalize that you're doing it doing it for your kids. But if you're really honest with yourself, a lot of it is for yourself.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted, and my YouTube is like 1% of my audience, right? But all of the fame comes from the people recognizing you from YouTube.
Yeah,
More,
they're not
like
like, is that the
99%.
sound of Jordan Harbinger's voice
It does,
that I hear?
that does happen, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And I know friends who are YouTubers that have like millions of subscribers and they make a fraction of what a podcaster makes, who has a big audio audience. But you can't even go to like Starbucks with them without people being like, whoa, I can't believe it's you guys. And they have a meetup and like 600 people show up and they thought maybe like 30 people were going to show up. It's like a real thing. My team was like, you can build that. You have all the raw material. You just need to start doing your shows in person. They need to be a little bit longer. You need to pick these certain controversial guests to sprinkle in because they get a lot of clicks. And you go, oh, well, I think we talked about this on your show. Like, oh, I'll make extra money and I can really, like, I can send our kids to school and do this. Now I'm forgetting what we talked about on your show and what we've already talked about here. But you really do rationalize it. And then the problem is it's never enough to fill the hole. Like the fame, here's something we definitely haven't talked about. The fame is, it's a weirdly intoxicating thing. Before I had any money, I didn't really care about being wealthy. I just thought, like, if you're well off, you win,
Sure.
which is true, by the way. But then you get some money and you go, wouldn't it be cool if also I was recognizable? On your show, we talked about those rich people that like suddenly want to be YouTubers. And it's like, what are you doing? Don't get me wrong. Beyonce is famous. I'm just a podcaster. But you really start to, it's like this insidious hole in your soul. And when you think about it, it's like I drilled the hole in my soul that could be filled
Well, not
with,
just that you
with
drilled
fame.
it, but then you're actively drilling it bigger.
Deeper, yeah.
So there's this weird thing where like it's somewhat strange to be recognized.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. There's some safety or privacy concerns that come along with it.
Yeah.
And then what do? You don't wake up and try to make yourself more anonymous. You wake up and you try to make yourself more famous. So there's something fundamentally irrational about it. It doesn't really do anything. It is weird. It sort of snuck up on me because my books have been popular for a long time, but authors have a relatively anonymous life. Like how many people make it to the end of a book? How many people even know the name of the author, let alone like flash forward to see the picture at the back, right? So
yeah, and they all blur together and
yeah,
stuff.
so I never got right, and then the social media stuff happened, and all of a sudden people are like, "Oh, you're that guy," and there's been advantages to it for sure, but
Well, like what? I'm curious.
look.
Besides ego, what is it?
I'll give you an example. So for Daily Stoic, we used to just like post quotes every day, and then when it would come time, I'd be like, "Hey, I have a book coming out." People would be like, "Who the f- are you?" Yeah. Like we realized that, or when I would want to talk about something that I thought was important, people would be like, "Well, where are the quotes?" Daily Stoic was supposed to not be about me, and it ended up actually needing to become about me to say and communicate the things that I wanted it to communicate. So and especially as more and more people just sort of ripping off what we were doing, right? And so
I noticed that there's like 10 Stoicism
yeah,
podcasts now.
It's hilarious.
It's like the weekly Stoic, the
There's a
bi-weekly
bunch.
Stoic, whatever.
But anyways, when someone knows who you are and they trust you and they like you, they'll hear what you have to say. So there's a reason that it's a form of power that can be used to do things that you want to do. Just there comes at a cost also.
Yeah, I noticed you never show your kid's face on social media. And when Jen and I were talking, she'll sometimes go, "Oh my God, this is so cute." And she'll send me a photo and she's like, "You should post that." And then she's like, "Oh, wait, no. And I never would. I mean, the only way she posts all of our family stuff and she's got a private whatever
we
where you
sort
have
of do
to
the
be
same
like
thing.
accepted.
Yeah, it's So there's like little downsides like that, and then there's also it's not good. It's a corrosive power also, though, right? You can identify with it and change you. And it's funny, this is like, again, one of the themes in Marcus Aurelius' meditations is he's this powerful guy that's worshipped as a god. And part of what he's trying to do there is remind himself that he's not special, that it doesn't say anything about him, that being recognized doesn't mean anything. It's just, cheering and clapping is the smashing of hands together or the clacking of tongues. And he also tries to look at, he's like, let's talk about some of the most famous people of all time. How famous are they now? How many people remember that? He'll run through the names of like really powerful, important people from like the court or two before his. And it'll be like, these are vaguely familiar at best now. And so it is, I think as long as you're doing it because it's a means to an end, it can be okay. If you're doing it because you think it's helping you, achieve immortality, or because it fills some hole in your soul, you're probably going the wrong direction.
I always try to think about it like the most famous person that my mom had heard of growing up is somebody that you and I will have never heard about. It's I can't even imagine who that person might be. And those things that make all your parents feel old, like when they go, "Oh, that's like so and so," and you're like, "Who?" Yeah. And even now, it's starting to happen to me where I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is like this person," and I'm not talking about like Charlie Chaplin. I'm talking about somebody who I think is reasonably current, and I'll be talking to somebody who's like 29, and they just go, "Who is that again?"
Yeah.
And I have to explain who this person is. And I realize I'm the weirdo. It's not that this person is profoundly disconnected from history. It's that they don't have any clue who like Audrey Hepburn was, which is also before my time. Yeah. Like this is the beginning of the absolute fading of that person in the zeitgeist or the cultural memory. And this is a super famous person, which you have this is when there was a handful of famous people at any given time. Now there's a gazillion podcasters and YouTubers and musicians and whatever else. You're just going to blend into the cacophony of that, even if you're an A-list film celebrity right now, which like
you're not.
Which you're not.
No, I remember when I was first starting and I worked with a bunch of different authors. Every once in a while I'd meet someone and they'd be like, they'd done like a book that had sold 1 million copies, but it'd been like 8 years before, 9 years before. And their new one was coming out and nobody cared, and sometimes that was due to decisions that they'd made, but over you stretch it out long enough, it happens to everyone. And just realizing that this force is acting on you and that there's this statue of Marcus Aurelius at this, outside Budapest. And I was really struck by it because I think it embodies a very Stoic idea. So it's a statue of Marcus Aurelius, but they noticed that the head is removable. And what they discovered is that, there are a lot of emperors. And so they didn't want to have to carve a new statue every time.
So this is an ancient statue.
This is an ancient statue. I was
going to say,
they uncovered it, dug deep in.
Okay.
They excavated. It's in a museum.
How did they not make it a Stalin statue?
And what they discovered that even back then, what the Romans would do is they're like, look, we're not going to carve a 15-foot statue every time.
Might not even be done by the time this guy's dead.
There was 1 year, there's a year called the year of the 5 emperors, right? And so like there was just a lot, or it's 4. Anyways, the point is, they were like, you're the most famous, important, powerful person in the world, but you know what you are? Replaceable.
Yeah, literally.
And
in this case.
And when you go, we're just gonna pop the head off, carve one of the new guy, and that's how this is gonna go. And that's what's happening to all of us, right? Like you're the number one podcast for a brief moment, and then you're not the number one podcast. And then podcasts are not even a thing anymore. And it's this relentless, merciless process by which you are slowly, inevitably made irrelevant by time and age and indifference. And some of us may have blips that last longer than others. But it happens to all of us. And for those few exceptions, like the fact that I'm talking about Marcus Aurelius, or you mentioned Charlie Chaplin or Catherine Hepburn or whatever, you know what good it does them to be remembered? Zero. They're dead.
They're dead.
They're taking zero enjoyment out of it right now. They didn't get any pang of validation that their name has survived. It does. How do you think it makes Alexander the Great feel that Alexandria is still a city with hundreds of thousands of people in it, and he founded that city? It doesn't mean anything to him. He died a horrible death, needlessly premature, because his ambition was endless and his men wanted to go home. And he died there. And that was the end of that story. It's been a part of other people's stories since, but it did him zero good.
How did he die? I don't even know, actually.
Well, there's one theory is that his men killed him because they were like, you said we would go home once we got here, and he didn't want to go home. And then the other one is he caught this like weird disease and it paralyzed him, and he was basically uh, Snow White for like a number of days. He was alive and in a coma, but he could hear and comprehend what was happening. And then it was like it's a particularly gruesome death. And then there's some other ones, but he died and then
Goodness.
is gone.
Yeah.
And as Marcus
Yikes.
writes in Meditations, he's like, Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died, were both buried in the ground. The same thing happened to both of them, which is that they became worm food. And so there's something I think humbling and clarifying about that. Does that mean nothing matters and you should do nothing? No, it just means you have to figure out how to do it in a balanced way inside your life.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. A lot of people who get caught up, my friends who are like making tons of money and stuff, they start going like looking at what they're going to buy online, just even fantasy shopping. And I was talking to my wife because one of my friends is selling his company for like hundreds of millions, and I'm like, "What are you going to get? Like, are you going to get a plane or a boat or both? Like, what?" And it's fun to think about. And I was telling my wife, I was like, "Yikes, probably never going to get there. Not even headed towards that. Don't really care." And she's like, "Yeah, I don't really think we need that." And I was thinking, what would I take in a fire? My kids, my wife, maybe my laptop would be a little inconvenient, but I'm like, I don't really need that. My cats, I take my kids, my wife, and my cats. I would stand in the street and watch my house burn down. I wouldn't even go back in for anything else, even if I thought I could get it. What do I need? I don't need any of that stuff.
The
And
other thing is like, yeah, sure, you're not selling your company for $100 million, but like, I bet when I met you in 2012, if I was like, Jordan, I'm going to tell you about a future in which 12 years from now, this is how many downloads your show is doing. This is what you're getting paid per year. This is how many years you will have done it and have taken this much out of the business. You'd have been like, that is incomprehensibly lucky and plentiful
Yeah.
and would be enough. And the problem
Yep.
is we get used to it and then we move the thing and it gets more like
Yeah.
I wanted to write one book. So I was like, if I could write a book, that would be so cool. And this is 16, like, so again, does that mean I should stop and just, no, because what am I supposed to do with my time, right? There's other things like my kids are at school. Like I have time for myself also. So I'm just trying to get to a place where, or what I think the struggle is, and there's not a lot of like resources and discussion about it, is like, how do you do what you do and be good at it, but from a place of enoughness?
Yeah, it's tough.
So it's easy to be like, hey, I do this thing and I work on this thing and I compete at this level because this is my goal, or this is what I have to prove, or this is my number, the money I'm trying to make, or not even to think about this and do it more from a place of like, I'm going to prove those people wrong. I'm going to be the greatest ever, to make the most. I'm going to be the number one, the indisputed GOAT, or whatever. That in some ways is easier because you're like, this thing is deciding what I do and how much of it I do and how much it takes out of me. But to try to be like, hey, no, I'm good at what I do. I care about what I do, trying to do it well. I'm in the league, but like I'm trying to do it from a motivational place that is not outcome dependent.
Yeah, man, it is funny to look back historically on. You're right. I would have when I first, not even when I first started, halfway through when I started this second iteration, when I started the Jordan Harbinger Show from my previous show, kind of like unplugging things and plugging it back in. I remember going, okay. And it was a very small number of what I thought I would need. And of course, that's like what you get in a week now or whatever. And then, but when I first started, I remember I was an attorney before, and I go, if I could make like one half as much as I make as a lawyer doing this other thing that I love, that would be so awesome. And of course, now it's much beyond that. And then you think, oh, but how do I double this? And it's just so silly because the way you double it is to ruin this thing that you love by doing it 100 times more than you want to and not seeing your family.
I remember James Altucher said to me once, he was like, you don't have to put your money to work. And I was like, what? And he was like, you don't have, he was saying like, people are like, you got to earn money, then you got to put that money to work. And then he's like, and then you got to buy a house, and it's got to appreciate. And his point was like, you could also just like make money and then live, like it doesn't have to be this thing that you're building or accumulating. That's look, some people don't have this problem at all, and some people don't have this impulse at all. But then I think people who are hearing this probably do relate to it.
Yeah, I think so.
Where you have a business and revenue of the business was X. So next year it should be X plus 20%, right? And if it's 90% of X, then you're going in the wrong direction and you're failing.
Yeah, that's
right?
interesting.
And so like it becomes this thing of comparing instead of just like, hey, this is what I do, and I'm going to show up every day and do it well. And obviously, if it makes no money, or if it's like losing money, you're probably not sustainable. But it's equally unsustainable to grow at an infinite level for an infinite amount. And so I think I am trying to sort of free myself from expectations. Like I don't have sales goals on my books anymore.
Really?
I don't.
That's great.
I don't have like bestseller list goals. Like I wanted to reach as many people as possible, and I do the things required, but I have tried to get the sort of hunger out of it.
That's amazing. That's how did you do that?
Well, part of it is doing it once, like.
And like winning one gold medal and realizing your life isn't completely
finished. That's helpful. I mean, I remember when Obstacles Away hit #1 for the first time, I was like mowing my lawn.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, what does this mean? Nothing,
Yeah.
But like it takes work. So like, okay, so Stillness is the Key was my first book to hit the New York Times bestseller list, and it debuted at #1. And so I was like, holy shit, I've done it. So then as I've done these other books, you have to make these different decisions. Like, hey, do you want to go on a book tour? Why do you go on a book tour? It's because it spreads the sales around, and then it helps for the list better, right? But that requires being gone for a long time. Or I have my own bookstore. I have Daily Stoic has a store. I can sell my books directly to the readers, which is better in some ways financially, but also then there's a direct relationship between you and the people. So I can be like, when I have a new one, I can be like, hey, hear about this one, right? But literally every time I do this, the publisher goes, but that's going to hurt your chances to be on the bestseller list.
Because you're supposed to spread them out.
You're supposed to spread them out. And then the New York Times list, I think understandably, when I report, hey, I sold 30,000 copies of my own book from my store, they're like,
did you though?
Yeah. So like,
that makes sense.
Right. So I was like, oh yeah, but my goal is not to do that. It doesn't mean I've done it. It didn't change my life in any considerable way. And by doing it this way, I am cultivating a more sustainable relationship with the audience that allows me to then just be like, hey, I have a thing. You want to hear? So anyways, the point is if what you need, how do you set up your life in the way you run your business, your career, or whatever, that it is as independent of other people and institutions as possible?
Yeah.
That's where you want to get, because then you can just do the thing because you like doing the thing. And if other people like doing the thing, then it can be financially sustainable. But it's not run through like, think about it. It's like you make this great movie and you put it out. But if you want it to win an awards, you have to do the award season campaign. You have to go to the things, you have to send it out to the people, you have to buy it's a process. And the second you decide that thing is meaningful to you, you are accepting the obligations of doing that thing, or the disappointment of not getting the thing because you didn't do the process.
Yeah, man, I find this is really helpful, because the whole comparison thing, right? It's the thief of joy, and all these awards that you can get for books are like sales goals and little press release things. It's hard to look, that stuff can be motivating, I guess, but for me, usually it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up to pee. I don't need to be motivated then.
Yeah.
That's called anxiety at that point. And I just find the negative comparison stuff, it kind of all, it happens, it blends together and it kind of cures almost like concrete or asphalt in a way that's really, you have to scrape it off your soul at the end. And it's not good. I was so much happier with podcasting before you could know how many downloads you had.
Sure.
There used to be this time where you would rent server space on like GoDaddy and they would go, oh yeah, this file was like there was no stats dashboard. You just have to look at how many MP3 files were downloaded over a 30-day period. And it would be like 80% partial downloads because the files are long and you had no idea what that really meant. And you go, okay, and then there were 40,000 full downloads. Does that mean it's 40,000 people? And then they would explain to you that you can't really tell how many unique people it was without doing like some sort of complex calculation that they aren't going to do for you. And you go, oh, okay, well, I guess since I like it, I'm just going to keep doing it. I was so much happier when that was it. Now you can look every minute and there's up-to-date statistics and it shows you where your rank is compared to somebody else. Like this is like the most unhealthy way to do something you love. It really is.
I've said before, I think with my first book, I was like 90% like, how's this going to do?
Yeah.
That determines my happiness.
Yeah.
And 10% like, I think I wrote a good book. I'm really proud of it. And I think I flipped it.
Yeah, that's great.
Or I think it's been a process getting towards being close to saying that I flipped it. That's where I'm trying. Would I be disappointed if it sold 0 copies? Of course, right? Like, and that would also be, people would be upset with me because I published it with someone.
Right, you would have failed people who have like invested in you. I understand that.
And it also decreases the chances of my ability to do it again. You know, like to do the next book. It changes the resources that I have available, the time I have allotted. You know, it changes things. But I just tried to channel that energy towards doing the thing well.
That's true, right? You're once you're at the top tier author level, you're still getting paid for talks. It's still worth it for you to write another book. You already have a topic. I know you have the next like 3 or 4
This
books.
is a 4-book series. So I have like another, that's the other reason I'm not thinking about how this one is going to do. Because like, actually what I'm thinking is like every minute that I'm spending traveling to promote or doing, I'm like, I could be working on the thing. Like,
do you take a break between books?
This one I took 2 years on instead of 1 year. Like I decided to take extra time just to be around more and to just like to slow down a bit. But I try to always, like, as soon as I finish a book, start the next one. Not because I have to always be working, but because to me, being in the process is like, I like writing books. I'm not in the business. I write books. I don't, I'm not in it to publish books. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
This is the accidental byproduct of
doing a bunch of
thing
research
that I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that to me, again, that's the enoughness, fullness place, as opposed to like, no. What I do is book launch parties. You know, like that's actually the culmination of it is the call from the agent that says, hey, here's where the first week sales numbers came in, and here's where you rank. That's to me is like this extra thing. That's like getting the bill at the end almost. It's not a negative, but like that's like I was here for dinner. You know, like I enjoyed the meal.
Yeah, I like that. I like that outlook. Hey, look, I have a whole section on disinformation and misinformation, but we talked about it on your show. Is it cool if I re-air that episode also?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we have to talk about the same thing, and I feel like we don't need to do that. And also you've got a flight and stuff like that. So I'll look at people who are listening to this right now. I'm going to re-interview your interview with me at some point in the near future. And there's a lot more as well. Talk about integrity and how expensive it is, and whine about how people who are grifters get more clicks. I always learn a lot from you, whether or not I'm reading your stuff over at the Daily Dad at dailydad.com. That's my major Ryan Holiday fix is Daily Dad stuff.
That's my favorite thing to write.
Is it really?
You always text me about it, which I appreciate.
I do, yeah. And I appreciate you, man. And I know that sounds creepy, actually, when people say that, but I mean it. And thanks for having me over at the Painted Porch as well.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for checking out this entire episode on YouTube. If you want to follow up on this topic, check out our podcast feed or visit us on our website at jordanharbinger.com, where you can learn more about our guest and dive even deeper into what we discussed today. And remember, YouTube only has about a quarter of the episodes that we release here on the Jordan Harbinger Show audio feed. Any podcast app should have us. Check out the links in the description where you'll find access to all of our shows that don't appear on YouTube, such as Skeptical Sunday, where we debunk topics like crystal healing, GMOs, conspiracy theories, homeopathy, tipping, and even lawns to find out if they're backed by science and or logic. Also, our Feedback Friday episodes where we help people escape from cults, get raises at work, and take all manner of questions from you, the audience, and some of that stuff is dicey. Every episode of the Jordan Harbinger Show has something useful that you can take away and apply in your own life and help you navigate what I know can often seem like the overwhelming and paralyzing challenges of modern life. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe.